Hello my little angels, Miss B here. Today we will be doing watercolor techniques. We will be doing wash, gradient, value, dry brush, wet on wet, and crayon resist. Now some of you might have done this before, but there is a chance you have forgotten, so we will relearn. First step, you're going to get your paintbrush and you're going to get your watercolor. Mine is brand new, yay. Okay, and we are going to, after we've split up our paper into 6 sections, doesn't matter how you divide it up, you just want to make sure that you have 6 boxes. I like to make mine kind of fun because we're gonna take off the tape later and it reminds me of like a stained glass window or something, but you could split your paper down the middle and you could do 3 lines of tape here, so that way you have 6 boxes. It doesn't really matter how you split it up as long as you have 6 boxes. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yay. Okay. So another tip before you start taping down, I call it the pants trick. I put some tape on my pants to get some lint, put it on my paper. That way, when I peel it off later, it will not rip my paper. So make sure you do that before you get your 6 sections. Okay, we're ready to go. You're also going to need a paper towel, wow, and a bowl of water that you can't really see, but it's right here. Okay, I'm gonna get my brush wet first, and I am going to start with wash. I like blue, and I'm gonna start with that. For wash, this is great for backgrounds. It's a pretty simple technique though, so I'm gonna pick a smaller box for this one. I'm gonna go with this one right here. And you're just gonna do a thin, even layer of one color. This is great for backgrounds, skies, anything that's pretty simple. That way you can just fill in the whole area with one thin layer of color. Sometimes if you don't know where to get started, you can just do a wash to help you get going. So I'm gonna add a little more color. It shouldn't be dark, okay? It's called wash for a reason. When you think of wash, probably think of water. So it's gonna be a thin, nice layer of one color. Pretty simple. Yay! Okay, there's my blue. And now I'm gonna take my Sharpie and label what I just did so I don't forget. This is wash. Yay, check it off the list. Sweet. Next is gradient, which is one of my favorites. Gradient is when you go from multiple colors to another. Okay, so I'm gonna do a rainbow, the Lord's rainbow, and I'm gonna pick a bigger section for this. I'm gonna do a gradient right here. So I'm gonna start with my red. You don't want it to be too runny, because you don't want it to go everywhere. And I'm just gonna do a thin line of red. I think I need to get a little bit darker. So I'm gonna go back into my paint here and do a line of red. Make sure it's not like running down to your whole section. We don't wanna ruin it. Okay. Now I'm gonna leave some space for my next color. Wash off your brush. I'm gonna go next to orange. Roy G. Biv. And I'm gonna kind of go like right underneath it so that way they blend together. That's the whole point of a gradient. It should be a smooth transition from one color to the next. Now, if you create a puddle of colors, it all turns into like a brown or green, you've used too much water. Okay, so there's my red and my orange. They're smoothly going together. I'm gonna rinse off my brush and dry it off. And now is yellow. So yellow is one of the least saturated colors because of its pigment. It is light in pigment. So you want to be careful with this one because it is easily taken over, especially by dark colors like purple. So I'm going to go back, like farther down, not back, but farther down, and I'm going to create my section because I want you to be able to see my yellow really well before I go into my orange, because I don't want it to be taken over by the orange, and I want to make sure you can see like, oh, there's my yellow and orange, and see how it's starting to come into the next color. It's gonna be a really nice effect, really good for like tie-dyes, sunsets, skies. Anytime you need to blend 2 colors together, you are gonna use gradient. Our next color is going to be green. And you don't have to do as many colors as I am. Okay, so since yellow is very sensitive, we are gonna start further down and we're going to gradually make our way up so that way it does not take over the yellow. Okay, so you can see the green and the yellow are bleeding together. Looks super nice. Make sure you don't have too much water. Okay, very nice. Wash off my brush. And what color is next? Blue. And like I said, you don't have to do as many colors as me. I would be fine with just 3, but I do want you to practice using multiple colors, and I would like you to practice using yellow just so you can see, wow, look how that is spreading through there. That's cool. Just so you can see how crazy it can get and how you have to be very careful. All right, and now our last color is violet. Okay, purple down at the bottom. Very nice. So we have our gradient. It's really pretty. Now, if this happens to you, then you can dab it up with a paper towel and you can go in and fix your colors. But I think it looks pretty cool, so I'm gonna leave it. Okay, so that one's gradient. I'm gonna label that gradient. Yay, check. Next one is value. Now this one's a little harder, so just follow along and pay attention. So a value is one color, and it is the difference from light to dark. So like shadows, highlights, those are all values. I'm gonna go with a darker color. I do not suggest purple. I mean, I don't suggest yellow for this. I suggest like a purple or red or blue or something. But I'm gonna get my paintbrush pretty saturated with paint, okay? And I'm gonna go to a bigger section for this. I'm gonna start here. And I'm just gonna fill in a section. I'm gonna want even more paint than that. I don't even want that much water. So we're gonna make it really dark. It's gonna look almost black. That's what you want. Really dark little strip here. Okay, go about less than half, so like a third. There we go. And now I'm gonna add just a touch of water. Not gonna get any more paint on my brush. I'm gonna come further down. I'm gonna come up into this color. I'm gonna create like my mid-tone. So it should be lighter than where I started. On the value scale, this would be like an 8. It's kind of hard to tell because of the light in the room, but this would be really dark. This would be in the middle, so like a 4. And then if you remember, highlights are like 1. So I'm gonna get my brush wet, clean it off, and then I'm gonna drag it down. A little bit more water, dry off my brush a little bit so it's not so runny. And we're gonna fade it to almost white, okay? So now you have a value from dark to light. That is called a value. I hope you can see. Maybe if I, oh, no. Well, there we go. Hopefully you can see it. It's kind of runny. Maybe I'll show an image at the end so that way you can tell. But that right there would be value. So I'm gonna take my Sharpie, label that with an arrow. Check. Okay, this next one, you're not gonna require much water at all. Get your brush clean. This is great for, this is called dry brush. It is great for details. Any details you do in watercolor, like hair, trees, eyelashes, words, outlines, anything that you want to be crisp and sharp, you're gonna wanna use dry brush. So, does anybody know what teeth is on paper? Yes, you're a genius. Teeth on paper is the texture of the paper. And with dry brush, you should be able to see that if that is what you would like. Sometimes you can use a little more water and you won't need to see it. But I'm gonna show you real quick what tooth is on paper. I'm gonna do dry brush right here. If you see that texture on your paper, can't really tell on mine because it is zoomed out, but now you can see like a little bit of texture. That's called the teeth, okay? So that is pretty nice if you want that. All right, so I'm gonna do tree branches. So to do, you want it to be kind of dry. I'm gonna start with a line. You need it to be a little more wet so that way it shows up, but not too much because it's called dry brush. Start with a line and then see how thin that is. This would be great for like trees. I'm gonna come along and do like a fern, like a palm tree or something. And I'm just gonna fill this up with a design. So for this section, I would like you to fill up your page with some sort of detailed design. It could be trees, it could be your name, it could be hearts, shapes, but it needs to be thin and detailed. Not too much water. Notice how this is completely different than what we were doing in the other sections. Dry brush, okay? So eyes you could do. Just fill it up with some sort of design. And if you're doing a project with trees, like I said, this would be great. Okay, so that is dry brush with the least amount of water. Even like shadows, like if you're doing a portrait, that's where you would do like the shadows of your nostrils or your mouth or anything like that. So this is a really useful one. Okay, done. We are now onto my favorite, which is wet on wet. This one's really fun. Should have saved a bigger section, but it's okay. So you're gonna get your brush wet. Dry it off just in case, because you don't wanna get any color on this. And you're just gonna paint a section with water, which I know sounds crazy, but trust the process. Okay, make sure it's got enough water on it or it won't work. But if you do too much water, you don't wanna ruin your paper. So just a little bit in moderation, be smart, okay? So I like this effect because it's kind of like a firework. So I'm gonna do some fun colors. You're going to get your brush wet, get your paint wet, and then you're just gonna do a dot. See how it bursts? Okay, if you don't have enough water, this will not work. So make sure that you are using enough water and enough pigment on your brush. Like if you overboard it with water, it's not gonna work. So it is a little difficult in that sense because watercolor is a little sensitive. You have to have the right amount of water to achieve a certain look. Love this, okay? This is really good for tie-dye, little designs, galaxies, anything where you want to have color bursting. Some kids have said like cotton candy, things like that. So I think I'm gonna leave it the way it is, but you can add multiple colors. But this is wet on wet. You basically wash your paper or your section with water, come in with a good amount of water and paint, and it will create a bursting effect. Love that one. Okay, we are on to our last one. So this is called Crayon Resist. Crayon Resist, Crayola. I always say it weird, so bear with me, but I'm gonna take any color crayon. I'm gonna go with yellow because yellow and blue are two pretty contrasting colors, and I want to pick something that pops. So I don't recommend using like two colors that are really similar. Like you wouldn't want to use, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure it shows up. But after you see it, you can decide. I'm gonna do stars. Okay, so you're gonna come in with your crayon and you're going to create a design. So as you know, oil and water do not mix. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a waxy barrier. So that way the watercolor does not go into this design. This is great if you're doing a detailed picture and you want to go around and create a border so that way color can't go inside of a section, or if you want to write your name or just create a cool design. This is pretty neat. All right, I'm gonna do complementary colors. I'm gonna do yellow and purple. So I'm gonna get my purple. You don't want it to be too dark to paint because you want it to show up nice. So as you can see, as I'm painting, the stars are popping up. Now, if it doesn't work, that means you probably didn't press down enough on your paper, like you didn't have enough like of a wax buildup. That's okay. We're trying this out. This is an experimental thing, so that way you can, you know, practice techniques. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to create like some sort of pattern or your name, and then do a wash like what we did here, and create a cool design. So I forgot to do this one. This one is wet on wet. And this one is Crayon Resist. Resist is R-E-S-I-S-T. All right, guys, so that is your watercolor techniques. You're gonna put it on the drying rack and let it dry. And then the following day, you can gently peel off the tape and turn it in. I hope you enjoyed this fun little tutorial. I did. Have a great day.